Good morning. This is Dr. Alugo from St. John Cap, where I empower youth mental health in three ways. One is by providing mental health education to parents and caregivers. The second way is by empowering youth by giving them information about mental health for themselves. And the third is by clinical role. Today, I'm going to be interviewing a very special guest. We're going to be discussing the gut brain connection. But before I go on to read her bio, just to remind you, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and I also have a podcast working on eggshells with Dr. Tolu. And there's so much information available because we know that with mental health, information is key. So, on to my guest today, Dr. Maria. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your coming on. I'm just going to introduce her in detail and then I'll get her to introduce herself in her own words. Dr. Maria founded Salud Revisited, an integrative and lifestyle medicine practice in Texas. She's the author of Healing the Wounds of Medicine, Stories and Journaling for Physicians. After seeking healing for complex developmental trauma, she realized many issues in medical training and career foster an environment that can naturally lead physicians to live in sympathetic response. She wrote this book with the hopes of helping physicians heal and discover tools to regain their passion for patient care. In her healing adventure, she has chosen to practice more holistically. She's a certified yoga instructor focused on trauma, resiliency, somatic and embodiment, and a heart math provider. She believes every physician deserves to discover their journey in medicine and live free and healed. You can find her writings in a few places that we'll tell you about towards the end of our conversation. Dr. Maria, this is such an interesting area that you're dealing with, but I wanted you to just introduce yourself to us first, where you're based, what you do, and then we'll kick off our conversation on the brain gut connection.
Yes, so I am Dr. Maria. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I have been practicing medicine now for a little bit over 10 years. I'm a board certified family physician, but I'm also trained in lifestyle medicine and integrative medicine, and that's the focus in my practice. So I practice very holistically and I help my patients and I empower them so that they can make sustainable changes and therefore be healthier more than sick.
Fantastic. That's great. And your practice is called, am I saying this right? Salud Revisited?
Perfect. That's
Okay.
perfect.
All right. So today we'll be discussing the gut brain connection. And I just wanted you to kind of, just educate us. What does that mean?
Yes. So there's a couple of things, right, that I can say about that. One is there is this very important nerve, right, that goes right from your brain into your like belly, to explain it very simple, and it's called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is responsible for helping your body live in what we call relaxation or parasympathetic, right? So instead of you being up here, excited and in adrenaline and stress, right, you can actually live more calm, focused, and relaxed. The other thing is that we know that there is a lot of like nerves or nerve fibers in our like belly and bowels that is called the enteric nervous system. It's more of what we call autonomic or primitive brain. So basically what that means is that it's not the part of the brain that helps you, for example, read, but it's still giving your body messages of what is happening in your environment and how you can or cannot feel safe, right? So that's to explain it in very simple terms.
Wow, that is so interesting. Just the fact that we can really live in this stressful environment or we can choose to live in a relaxed mode. So why is this important? Why is this gut brain connection important?
Yeah, so a couple of reasons, right? So, one, especially for people that might have any sort of mental health condition, right? You can have symptoms that are like in your belly because of what's happening in your brain and vice versa. So think about perhaps when you get scared, or something happens and you had like a bad day, you might get a stomach ache. or you might get
Mhm.
like diarrhea. People that live very stressed can sometimes develop like really bad constipation, right? So they're correlated, right? They go together and they play this game. So some of your like symptoms, for example, diarrhea and constipation, might get better if we help your mental health and if we help you again live in less fear, live in less stress. The other thing is that there is this thing that we call the microbiome, right? Which is inside our body, we have like bacteria and we have like fungi and we have these things that help us, make our digestion, help us produce the poop, right? And what we know is that when you have a healthier or a different gut microbiome, you also will have a better mental health. And then there's this correlation between, what we eat, among other things that affect the gut microbiome. That's not only the one thing, right? That can also help you, live healthier, right? And be able to have a better health brain and better emotional brain health, better emotional health.
Mhm. Wow. I mean, like your example about people being anxious and having this what we call somatic symptoms, like the belly aches, the diarrhea. Some people will have ulcers because they're in high stress jobs, and headaches and stuff like that. So really, it's an important connection to be aware of. So I'm just wondering, is this only relevant to adults or is this relevant to children as well?
Yeah. So, I definitely think that it starts in childhood, right? And what I mean by that is, so there's a couple of things that when we are growing, right, your parents can do, right, to help kids be healthier. So for example, things that might not be completely under the control of the parent, but one is, C-sections, right, will affect the gut microbiome, right? Because when you have a C-section, you're not passing through the mom's, vaginal canal, and therefore that's one of the things that affects the gut microbiome. The other thing, right, is so breastfeeding. So when you think about how modern society has changed, those are two things, right, that has changed drastically. And C-sections are life-saving, right, but not always do we have a C-section because of that. The other thing is, food, right? And I think that this is particularly challenging in, the pediatric population. But ideally, if we can, create a family environment and family meals where plants predominate, fruits and vegetables, and we can reduce what we call like processed foods, right? Or foods that are packaged or fast foods, and then the sugary food, that will also have a positive influence for the children. And then the other thing that I think is very important, sometimes, kids have like, again, that belly ache, that there's nothing else going on, but they have this belly ache. Or, they arrive from school and they have like diarrhea, right? Like something is going on. And I think that that's very important for the parents to use it as a signal of coming closer to their child, because there might be something going on, right? Something at school, something that happened, right? That the only way that the child and the body of this child has to say, hey, something is wrong, I am not safe, might be by these symptoms, right? That sometimes we don't understand where they're coming from.
Definitely. I've seen so many parents say to me, oh, when they were maybe when a child was in elementary school, they were getting constant phone calls about belly aches. And it's not till many years down the line that they make the connection to say, "Oh, this kid has been anxious for a long time and was
Mhm.
just really struggling." So you've mentioned a couple of things about, a couple of strategies about, plant-based diet, reducing processed foods. Can you just give us like a estimate how much of our diet, like for parents, how much of their meal on a day-to-day basis should you be encouraging fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, so I think so. A couple of advices that I would give is one. let's pick things that the child already likes, right? Let's not force them to eat something that they don't like. I would say at least let's aim for one serving, at least of fruit per meal, right? So, and again, I'm talking about you're eating your normal 3 meals a day, and maybe they're having a snack after school. Um, and then the other thing would be vegetables. And, when it comes to vegetables, what we know is that we always want to eat more vegetables than fruit. And again, I know that this can be challenging on the little ones, but I would say if you can at least aim for one serving, right, of nice vegetables per day, I think that that would be like a wonderful goal for parents. And the other thing that I would say is, so when you do this, do it as a family thing, right? So let's say that you have a child at home that maybe has anxiety or has ADHD, but then your other kids do not have it, or you, mom, you don't have that, medical condition. If you put them like on a special diet, it might be very hard for them to see it as something positive because they might see it as I am different and I don't get to eat, I don't know, the ice cream for dessert and I'm eating this bowl of fruit, right? So I think that the more we can do it as everybody in the family, the easier it will, get. And then the other thing that I think is very important, and I know parents have their, divided in the time, but if you do have the time and you can be involved in advocacy efforts at the school level so that the school food and the school lunches are truly healthy and you know what your kids are eating, I think that is not only good for your kids, but generations to come.
Wow, I love those tips. I mean, getting involved with school lunches, I think that's a big one because sometimes they're having all the pizzas and burgers and all of that. So it's a place where a difference can be made. So if we're talking to that parent who has not really been practicing this, strategies up till now, the kids haven't got into the habit of having fruit and vegetable at every meal. How can they start to do this?
Yeah, so I would say let's start with one change at a time. And let's start by picking something that you already know that they eat. Let's say that you already know that they eat bananas. Well, how about if you offer them or you prepare in their meals, right, a banana or half a banana, right, so that they can see, oh, this banana is something that is going to become more normal, right, and something that I eat. Um, the other thing is you can start, especially if you have a little bit more time, maybe during the weekends, maybe you can start to pick just one meal per week that we can all prepare and cook together. And when you think about it, right, you're not only preparing a healthier meal, you're teaching them how to cook, but you're also spending more time with your kids. And we know that that is extremely important, especially depending on the age that your child has, for good attachment and developing a good relationship with the parent and security. So it has a couple of added benefits. And then I would say, also go slowly and pay attention to what your child is telling you. And we do know that certain people, when they eat, for example, cabbage, right, they might get like abdominal gas, right? So if your child eats something that then gave him, abdominal gas, well, let's not make him eat it again multiple times a day, right? So again, it's this play between, what they like not only in taste, but what is also, something that they can digest easier, and then start to incorporate it more and make it fun for them and make it tasty. Right. There are some, if you put it on Google, right, and you look for recipes that you can cook with your kids, right, there's a couple of options that would come up. And I would encourage you to start with those that look fun for the children, that look like they have happy faces and things that they can do so that they start to be part of this healthier way of nourishing their bodies.
Wow, I like those strategies. And I mean, I hear you talk about being intentional, so making the time. We're heading into the summer months. I guess this is something you could incorporate into your summer to have a day when you cook with your kids, that one meal that you all possibly shop for together, gather the ingredients and make it a fun, inclusive thing. I think that's great. So, are there any other strategies that we can use to improve that gut-brain connection?
Yes, I think that the other one that I haven't mentioned, and I would say, this is something that you do want to discuss, with your doctor, but then it's the use of antibiotics, right? And what we do know is that, if we overuse antibiotics and we use them when you have what we call like a head cold or a chest cold, when we know that you have something that is viral that will not benefit from the antibiotic, every time that you take antibiotics, right, it kills the bad things, but it also kills the good things, right? And studies have shown that after you take antibiotics, you actually lose these good microbiomes that you have in your bowel, and it takes very long time, for your body to make the good ones again. And there are studies that have shown, right, that when we do this a lot, it does correlate with higher incidence of, for example, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, right? And when you think about that, it's not that we never use an antibiotic. Antibiotics, when you have like, strep, that we know that you have strep, we want to use these antibiotics. But sometimes, right, we want our kids to feel better. We want them to be able to go to school and not have a cough and not have us, the sniffles. And the question that I would invite you to ask is, one, ask your doctor, is this really necessary right now? Do we really need to use it? And then the other thing is, as a parent, are there other strategies that you can use that would allow your kids to feel a little bit more comfortable without, jumping quickly into using the antibiotics? And then the other thing that I would say is, sometimes you just have to let your kids play outside in the dirt and have their hands, in the dirt. Maybe, not now in the summer, but when it gets cooler, allow them to maybe plant, a tree or a flower or something,
Mhm.
and let their hands get dirty, because that dirt is actually healthy for our bodies. And then once they're done and they have, put the little plant there in the hole, just wash their hands before they go back into home. But those are other things that we know that will be healthy, right, for the gut.
Okay. What about things like using probiotic yogurts? Do those help? Because we hear about that
Yeah.
so much, but I'm not sure what the science is behind that.
Yeah. So, what studies have shown is that not everybody responds the same way to probiotics, right? And then there is what we call the prebiotics, so pre before, and then the pro. Um, we also know that we need both the pre and the pro, and not all like the things that you eat that have bacteria inside of them will have them. It's not that it's bad, right? And if you're going to give and offer your kids a yogurt, I would highly recommend not one that has a lot of sugar, so that you don't counterbalance it. But it is about not depending on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
um, the other thing is, and this can be again tricky for, with little ones, but there are fermented foods that are very rich in these organisms, right, in the pre and the probiotics, that if you eat them and you ingest them, we know that it's better, and that the majority of the people benefit from it more and better than if you take the probiotic pill. right?
Right.
So when it comes to probiotics, a pro-prebiotic supplement, what I would say is, again, discuss it with your kid's doctor, because we know that not everybody responds the same way.
Wow. Thank you so much for this great information. It's been very educative. So I'm just wondering, where can we find you? And what other services do you offer? I know you've written a book.
Yes. Yes. So the book is for doctors, but I would say if you have a doctor in your life that you love, then you can gift it to them. But it's specifically, for maybe parents that want an integrative approach to the care of their kids, or for them themselves, for the entire family. They can find me at saludrevisited.com. That is SALUDREVISITED.com. And there they can find my services. I provide services virtually for patients in Texas and in person in the Houston area.
Okay, great. And are you also on social media?
Yes. And on social media, they can find me at Salud Revisited, both on Instagram and Facebook. And then my writings right now are under MD Write 2, the number 2, Heal, both on Facebook and on Instagram.
Okay. And then you also have a website. I think I kind of found one, shinemd.net. Is that for other physicians or is that for everybody?
Yeah, so there's where I have my writings. I have there not only the book that I publish, but also my poetry. So if
Okay,
you are into the arts, especially by words, then that's where you would find my poetry.
great. Well, thank you for sharing all these great resources with us. Before I let you go, do you have any last word of advice for my audience?
Yeah, so I think that as parents, we want the best for our child, right? And we are very divided. We try to be parents. We're a lot of the times we work full time. So in this process of making changes to help you and your kids and your family be healthier, also have self-compassion and give yourself grace. We don't have to be perfect. Just try to make one change at a time and have grace and enjoy the process.
That's fantastic. And you know what? The nugget I'm taking away today is to have one piece of fruit at the meal. I think that's doable for everybody. Thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. And just to say, you guys, this will be on YouTube. It's always there. You guys can share with your network. Follow me on Instagram, St. John Cap, on Facebook as well. Listen to the podcast, share with friends and family. Leave comments, suggest what other topics you want to hear, and we'll do this again soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Maria.
Bye.